Okay, everyone, welcome to our presentation. I am Barbara Dumoulin of CFUW. I am the current chair of CAMIUS. Okay, I mentioned all this about muting yourself, so that's fine. So our session today recognizes qualifications for employment of women migrating to North America is a common problem for um, new individuals coming to our three countries. Next slide, please. So who are we? We are the three organization, CAM for CAMIS, Canada, ME for Mexico, and US for the United States. So within Canada, it's CFUW, the Canadian Federation of University Women. We go by our acronym now rather than by the full name. Mexico, Federación Mexicana de Universitarias, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, FAMU, and USA WG USA Women Graduates USA. We are the North American Regional Alliance of National Affiliations of GWI. And you'll notice that within the logos at the bottom, the one for CAMIUS has three monarch butterflies. So why the butterfly? Well, although very fragile in appearance, they're actually very tenacious. They migrate south in late summer, fall from the northern and central regions of Canada and the US to Florida and Mexico. As such, it's an apt symbol for the migration of women between our countries. The color of each ring represents each country. This logo was created by Glenda Hetchner. It symbolizes the union of the three countries and uses the first two letters of each. The three organizations work together on issues of concern to all three countries. Our focus has been primarily on education and the rights of women and girls, especially those of immigrants and refugees. Next slide, please. So we do have our respective presidents, CFUW, Linda Sesta, FEMO, Marilla Feingold, WGUSA, Susan Steele. And GWI, I don't think Patrice is on. She said she might possibly make it. Patrice Wellesley-Cole, who is from the UK. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm very pleased to make this switch over to Camellia. Each year, the three organizations take a turn in sponsoring and hosting this parallel session. So this year, the host is FEMU, and they were responsible then for uploading everything to Huva. Our moderator is Camilla Tigua, who represents the Mexican Federation of University Women. She is a research professor at the Center for Research on North America, National Autonomous University of Mexico, UNAM, and vice president of the Global Research Forum on Diasporas and Transnationalism, GRFDT, India. She has published extensively on skilled migration, scientific diplomacy, and North American studies. In 2022, she received the Sor Juana Inez de la Cruz Award for Outstanding Women Scientists at UNAM. Camellia provided us with the concept and the research for this presentation. Over to you, Camellia.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I'm really happy to have this event on today. We've been preparing for maybe half a year now. And the topic is a follow-up from last year. There are several ILO recommendations for the recognition of foreign credentials, often quoted by feminist geopolitics, claiming that migrants' education and skills should be appreciated based on their international experience rather than based on their host country's experience. The right to foreign credential acknowledgement is even more important for women, a symbolic minority who seem to suffer from vulnerabilities such as access to education in their countries of origin, labor discrimination, and gender violence in the migration process. So our proposal today is based on reinterpreting the responsibility of hospitality to compensate for historical gender disadvantage and as an opportunity for talent gain for the countries of destination. We saw in our work, in our testimonies, that professional women emigrate due to a set of factors, among which gender is not necessarily the main determinant. That is, they are not always expelled because of their minority role, but because of their professional or personal context. However, we will have two representatives from Afghanistan today, and they are expelled also because of their conditions as well. Many foreign professional women in North America are facing barriers to accessing the job, moving up in their job, and earning a better income. The lack of certification and validation of degrees are some of the problems they have to solve to perform professionally in their field of training. To avoid discrimination, many women have stated they have to marry as citizens from the country of destination and or become naturalized to be able to continue their career. Many highlight the advantage of bilingualism in certain work fields, as well as in geographic border areas and cities with a significant migrant population. These are the topics that we will be discussing today. We have 5 representatives from a varied experience, NGOs, and governmental efforts to recognize foreign skills and credentials. We have 2 migrants from Afghanistan and 1 migrant from Colombia. And I will hand it over to Grace from CFUW to present our first speaker, Diana.
Thank you. Well, knowing the support that the Newfoundland and Labrador Teachers Association, NLTA, has for teachers, I am particularly pleased to welcome to this panel Deanna Hatcher, a member of its professional staff. Deanna's background is aligned with this presentation in that she's a former provincial registrar of teacher certification, and she's the current NLTA representative on the Teacher Certification Committee, and that's a provincial committee. Deanna facilitates financial seminars drawing on her background, both in the financial services industry and in senior leadership roles in the education sector, to support members and share expertise within the education community. Deanna lives in St. John's on the eastern edge of Canada in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Deanna, you're on.
Well, thank you for the lovely introduction, and thank you all for being here this afternoon. So as Grace mentioned, I'm going to be talking about recognizing qualifications of migrant women teachers in the context of becoming a teacher in Canada and hopefully in Newfoundland and Labrador, as we still have our shortages for sure. So you can go to the next slide. So when I was looking up the definition of recognize, I came across an advertisement that used to play quite some years ago, and it was a popular skincare moisturizer ad. This young man, he passes this attractive lady and tries to convince her that he knows her. And he keeps pressing, and he finally gets it, and he says, 1975, you were in my class. And she quickly quips back, I was your teacher. And so he realizes he recognized her, but they weren't quite classmates. So today I'm going to talk to you about recognizing teachers for much more important reasons, for their academic qualifications, their experience, and what they can bring to all of us. If you look up the definition of recognition, it says to know again. And I can tell you with my experience with teachers becoming certified, they want to be known again for what they're already known in their own country as teachers. I'll talk about the certification process for women who want to be known again as a teacher in Canada, and some of the challenges that migrant women face, and some recent changes that have come about aimed at reducing some of those barriers to becoming a teacher here. So it's important to note that in some countries, certification happens at the national level. And what that means is that a teacher once certified at that level can teach anywhere in that country. In Canada, there are 13 separate regulators, one for each province and territory. So what that means is that each single province territory has its own set of rules and regulations. In other countries, certification may not be required at all, and teachers apply for jobs like they would any other job application. In countries like Iran, they have a bit of a hybrid model where certification is required if the person wants to teach in a public school, but it may not be required if they teach in a private school. And we'll talk a little more on that later. So let's first consider the first challenge of somebody who's moving to Canada and has 13 different options to choose from. They finally narrowed it down to one country, and now they've got 13 options with a process that's probably already quite overwhelming, determining where they're going to move to. Some of the immediate challenges that applicants would have was around documentation and transcripts and statements of professional standing. I'll talk a little bit about what those are and some of the barriers and challenges. So transcripts have to be sent from the university to the teacher certification office directly. So that can be a challenge for a number of reasons. And as registrar, I can tell you that I didn't think about a lot of these things having lived in Canada, and it was eye-opening for me. Some universities will issue one original copy to the graduate, and there's really no mechanism for issuing additional copies. So folks would show up in my office with their original transcript, very proud, as you can imagine. And the first words out of me were, I don't know if it's authentic. So you can imagine coming with pride and having so much ready and already faced with that. In some cases, applicants needed to arrange for a senior family member to visit the university to obtain a document in person, or the applicant had to travel back to their country sometimes to negotiate with the university to send transcripts back to the Canadian registrar. For females, they can be particularly vulnerable if they can't travel alone or negotiate without family supports. So some applicants, they're leaving war-torn countries where their former university, it may not be easy to visit, it may not even still exist. Even when transcripts were available, additional information like course-specific level information was needed, and information about a practicum and where it was had, where it was supervised. Sometimes websites were helpful to a regulator trying to figure it out from a distance, but that was only if it was in English or French. And certainly sometimes there were additional costs for the applicant who had to bear the cost of translating further information. The statement of professional standing is another document that caused confusion at times. I think we're gone a little ahead on the slide if you want to go back one. A statement of professional standing, that document is required, it's issued by a regulator to state that a teacher is in good standing, so never had their certification revoked or canceled. And that's about providing protection to the public, that this person is is worthy of teaching kids with a vulnerable population, and that their transcripts were accepted in the other jurisdiction. Because that doesn't exist in every country and jurisdiction, already it was a challenge for how do you find an alternative to what is, very much accepted here. So I spoke to a newly certified teacher here from Iran, and she said that she had very little trouble getting her credentials recognized when she came here. But she shared the story of others who worked in private schools who didn't have a Bachelor of Education or certification because they only worked in those private schools and often for many years. So when they moved here, they came on a study visa, started a Master's of Education, and certainly believing that they would be even more qualified and be able to obtain their certification. Unfortunately, because they didn't understand that the undergraduate degree, Bachelor of Education, was the requirement, they were actually further behind than they realized. Some other challenges, in many jurisdictions, the applicant has to provide work authorization as part of the application process. So even applying from their country of origin before they arrive in Canada can be a challenge for some because the application won't be accepted. They have to provide a Canadian social insurance number and demonstrate that they have authorization to work in Canada. That can be a challenge. Speaking with a lady from India, teacher here, her visa application was rejected twice, and each time she had to pay additional application fees. The process can be challenging, but it can also demotivate folks over time who've already gone through a lot, as you can imagine, in some cases leaving difficult situations to already arrive here. She had her credentials in hand, but again, those weren't accepted by the evaluator. As part of the immigration process, the other part is that applicants who study in Canada, they may not be authorized to work while they're studying. So they even have to wait further till their studies are completed. And going back to the previous example, imagine the person who's studying believing that they're getting to the goal to find out that they're not even meeting it by the time they finish. I spoke to another teacher from here who said that there's a language test required for the work permit now. And then she came to find out there was another different language test required to be certified as a teacher. She described it as more hoops and less hope. So the emotional impact of it certainly can be a challenge as part of it. The current registrar told me about a teacher who had left her family and came here for 2 years. She left her children back home while she studied here and worked towards all her goals. The good news was she got her permanent residency, she got her studies, she became certified, and when she got all that in place, her family joined her, and she actually brought them to visit the registrar because that was such a significant moment in her career. That was the key to her being able to begin, working here. So they were all introduced to the new registrar, which was quite emotional as well. Some other things are prior teaching experience. So quite often in teaching, and I believe it's the case right across the country, if you have former teaching experience, usually you don't have to start at the first salary step. You can move higher up the salary levels, but you have to have proof of your prior teaching experience. So similar to the other documents, recognizing that prior teaching experience, usually the applicant will have to get that information sent directly from their former employer to the registrar again, which may create its own issue if that person's leaving a situation that may not have been desirable, might have had its challenges, or again, maybe you're in a war-torn place that just getting access to documents is so challenging. So the process at any step can be quite overwhelming. And often applicants, it's not uncommon to hear that they'll take lower paying jobs that have lower entry requirements. And we'll find out that somebody working in a position is actually very, very, very qualified, but just hasn't been able to meet all the hoops just yet. So over time, there's been a lot of things that have changed and that have caused change. And some of those influencers, we'll just go to the next slide there. Yeah, so I guess a little timeline to take us from I won't say the beginning because teachers have been getting certified for quite some time, but we'll go back to before 1995 and where we are now. So I remember taking a course in change management, and they said if you want to change somebody's mind, you have to figure out what is there, what's in it for me. And I found that really relevant thinking about certification because before 95, there were really no talks between registrars, and just within the 13 in Canada, there were really no talks of collaboration. There was no need for it. You had your own set of rules. Remember that each province has its own curriculum, which means you could be taught different courses right across the country, and each province is in charge of that. So if a teacher receives certification to teach in one Canadian jurisdiction, but then they move to another province or territory, they weren't guaranteed that that other province or territory would accept them. Internationally educated teachers, really had to get it right when picking their one of 13 options. Following the 1995 signing of the Agreement on Internal Trade, that was the start of, I guess, Canada-wide, looking at all trades and professions in Canada, that they would have to, this required them to give recognition of any prior certification in Canada, meaning that if somebody internationally educated was certified in one jurisdiction, the other jurisdiction would have to accept them if they applied. In 2017, that evolved to the Canadian Free Trade Agreement. And it further, I guess, explained that an applicant had to be recognized if another Canadian jurisdiction had recognized them, but as well that they wouldn't have to go through significant additional training, work experience, and new assessments, unless there were some exception. So certified teachers still had to apply, but certainly the eligibility was there. That barrier was removed. In 2018, some of you may be familiar with the Lisbon Agreement because it was jointly drafted by UNESCO. Governments committed then to further international collaboration, and as it related to the academic and professional mobility of teachers and other professions, but also promoting best practices in the assessment and recognition of academic credentials. So a lot of collaboration, a lot of sharing, a lot of things like that were happening. What I recall was when it came out, and I'm reading through it, and it said, you had to assess an international transcript. Within 12 months, you had to make a decision. That was a source of panic for me at the time, because 12 months was a short period of time to do that kind of work. Whereas now that's really changed. And I can imagine for the applicant, 12 months sounds like a long time. So thankfully things have improved, and we'll get to that. The the fair registration, just back when fair registration practices that came about in this province in 2022, and as its name suggests, The aim is to provide greater transparency to applicants. And one of the really good things that have come out of it, as an example, it includes that information has to be publicly available to the applicant, but it also has to tell you not just what the required documents are, but what are the alternate documents or proof that an applicant can provide in lieu of. So when we go back to that teacher who I said who showed up with their transcript, who, you know, we couldn't accept it, well, then this would state that, what could you do? I recall sitting with an applicant thinking, how can I figure out if this is a legitimate transcript? And I took a photocopy and I sent it back to the university and I said, please let me know if this is valid. It was really simple once you thought of it, but it kind of took a bit of thinking outside the box. So all that time should be less and less and less, because these things are more transparent to everybody of what are some other ways that I can get the information. So taken together, regulators had to find some common ground. What's in it for me? Well, if they're doing this, I better find out what my neighbors are doing, because we're all going to rely on each other's assessment. So it drove collaboration. It drove collaboration so that it improved over time. So if we look at, and you can move to the next slide, Camelia, the CMEC, it's the Canadian Ministers of Education Canada. They have a group of registrars right across the country. They all get together, and I can tell you, when I was registrar, the labor mobility things had just started, and there were people that were very on board with us sharing and collaborating, and people that this was new to them. Now I think it's just a given that everybody collaborates and figures out what each other's doing. So what I've seen over time, certainly since my time there, is improvements in streamlining. Improvements in, you'll see that the criteria is not that different from one to the other. A few different things, because education is so different in each jurisdiction. But I've also seen that numbers have increased. When I left, there were about 10 applicants for internationally educated teachers. I asked the registrar in December what they were up to for the year. She said about 176. And that didn't include the 64 that had come through labor mobility. So numbers are very much increasing. So in terms of streamlining the process to take where it was and where it is now, so next slide. It really started with a silo effect. Each province was assessing studies in very much a silo. You reached out to larger jurisdictions to try to figure things out. In the last few years, they've used World Education Services, and that's an organization that does assessments of transcripts and will sort of outsource to teachers can go there, get their credentials, and then have it sent to the registrar. But now Pathways to Teach Canada has just come on board. 10 of the 13 jurisdictions are part of this, and they use it. Just November past is when Newfoundland and Labrador joined, and it's still very new, but it is now a central website that if a person were looking to come here to be a teacher, they would definitely go to that website and they would do all the credential assessment. They would check the language test. They would confirm that a person has a practicum, all those things, so that it's done once, and then they would house that information. So that's really going to streamline things for applicants. That was in talks back when I was registrar years ago, and only just happened. So you can imagine change takes a while. But what I want to implore is how much external pressures and good common sense really helps when you're looking at how to improve things. Because what I will say is I'm certainly hopeful that we will have more teachers recognized here over time. So I want to thank you all for your time this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Dina. It was a great example of what governments can do, and especially Canada, because it's a very interesting case of private and public sponsorship of immigrants. So then it is a model for other countries to follow. Now we'll hand it over to Barbara to present the Sodava Saidi.
I don't know how many years I have to be on this to remember to unmute myself. Okay, Dr. Sodava Saidi was in her third year of medical residency in Afghanistan. She arrived in Canada July 2022 after leaving the Taliban-controlled region with her family. Her mother, who raised her family alone following her father's death by opposition forces, has been a significant influence in her life. Sodava refers to her as her hero. Although Sodava's medical training is not currently recognized in Canada, she remains focused on her goals. She is currently enrolled at Algonquin College, working towards becoming a nurse as an intermediate step while aiming to achieve her long-term goal of becoming a certified doctor in Canada. Now, I know she's going to tell us more about her past, so I'm going to stop there. Sadaba, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Hello, everyone. My name is Sudaba Saidi. I'm from Afghanistan, a medical doctor, graduated in 2019, and I completed my 1 year of practical in 2020, and I was in my residency, first year of my residency, when the crisis happened in Afghanistan, and I had to leave the country without like any planning because of my family background, where my family members are lawyers. My mom worked in human rights and women activists. So we had to leave the Afghanistan, and we spent about 9 months in Greece, just to process the paperwork to come to Canada, where I have been dreaming my life totally different. When I came to Canada, it was opposite. So I ended up being in a small town called Merrickville in Ottawa for a year, where I didn't had any access to transportation. I didn't had any information regarding how to follow my goals and how to get my credentials recognized here in Canada as a medical doctor. So that process was very frustrating for me, for being away from my profession, where it was where I believed, and my family also believed, that I was born to be in that field and that profession. But unfortunately, I was helpless and I couldn't do much. So I ended up working in different places like Tim Hortons, pizza shops, and kitchen as a dishwasher. That was a really hard process for me. When I was working in a kitchen as a dishwasher, I was comparing my life in Afghanistan and here, where I used to wear gloves to assess C-sections, deliver the babies, and do the help assist the patients. But I was wearing gloves here just to wash the dishes. I'm sorry. So that was a really tough process for me, but I'm grateful that I was strong enough to go through that process. And finally, I moved to Ottawa, where I got access to transportation and some information about some organizations which helped newcomers and international medical students regarding their licensing and stuff. But finally, in a very short period of time, I realized that that is not enough, and I have to work to have a stable, to have financial stability to survive here in Canada. So I decided to do a job instead of like following my goals, unfortunately. And then I found a job as a UCP. If you guys are familiar with that, it's like an unregulated care provider, where you work in retirement homes as with your background. They will train you, and you can administer medications for residents and monitor their daily activities and vital signs and stuff. So I ended up working there, and finally I started to evaluate my transcript and everything, but unfortunately that was not helpful for getting in a nursing school, which is very frustrating. And I had to go through even very basic math, biology, and chemistry of high schools to be eligible to get in to the nursing school. So my purpose today for being here is I really want to be a part of something which can ease steps for upcoming international medical students, or can be helpful for myself as well to make their journey easier. So I will be explaining some challenges and obstacles in obtaining medical licensure in Canada today. So the first, there are some processes, challenges during this obtaining license in Canada. So first would be the recognition of international medical students. Canadian medical regulatory bodies require foreign medical degrees to be evaluated, although after getting evaluated, there are some challenges and obstacles to getting recognized, but there is um, this option, and the process is super complicated and time consuming, and they require some additional examinations and some bridging programs for international medical doctors to be eligible to work as a doctor in Canada. Next slides, please, Barbara.
It's okay, this one?
I don't know. I can't see your slide now. I don't know which slide you're in.
It's the one that says limited residency opportunities.
No, the licensing exam and requirements.
Okay.
There are some exam and requirements for licensing. The first would be step would be Medical Council of Canada qualifying examination, part 1 and part 2, where you need to pass this exam. And after this exam, you have another step, which is called OSCE, which is like you get to you will assess for your practical skills and knowledge. Obviously, these two steps are like highly expensive and associated with the cost. And the next challenge would be limited residency opportunities. Here, like it can cause for 3 reasons. One, international medical graduates face tough competition for residency positions, and it might be because of lack of Canadian experiences. And the other reason is like preference is often given to Canadian medical graduates, which makes sense. And the last reason would be, in general, limited number of seats available for IMGs or international medical graduates. And the other challenge is financial challenges, which personally I also believe and I experienced, because as a newcomer and an international student, it is really tough to balance your financial stability and your profession and follow up your profession life. Because exam and credential assessments and training programs are highly costly. And also for some of students, they have like extra immigration related financial expenses, like visa application fee or settlement fee and expenses. And the other challenges would be language and communication barrier. Effective communication skills are essential for patient care and collaboration within the teamwork. So there are some language barriers for international students where they need to work on it as well. And at the same time, to be able to complete your proficiency in English language, or some of provinces require like French, it takes time and cost. Sorry, Camelia, I cannot see still your slide, but I'm in my last slide, which is lack of guidance and
Yes,
mentorship.
I'm on this slide. Anyone else can see the slides, right? Yeah, okay.
I just lost the slide. And the last challenge would be the lack of guidance and mentorship, where I believe I really still hope for somebody who can just hold my hand and guide me through this journey, where like international students or newcomer face difficulty for finding mentorship and networking opportunities, which is really important to get your license recognized here. And sometimes limited awareness could be another reason for being away of from your goal, and takes time to get your journey to be started. And thank you. That's it, I guess.
Thank you so much, Sudava. Now we'll have Faye from Women Graduates USA present Taibe and Sabia. Hopefully Faye has
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
Okay.
Dr. Taiba Narazan holds a PhD in architecture and has been a faculty member at 2 universities in Kabul. She has 20 years of professional practice experience and was a licensed professional engineer in design, supervision, and implementation for 13 years in Afghanistan. After immigrating from Afghanistan to the United States, she now works as an international adjunct professor of architecture at South Dakota State University, where she teaches architecture and urban design. It is my pleasure to present Dr. Nazarian.
Thank you, Faye.
Thank you, Faye, for introducing me. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to see all of you, and I appreciate to giving me this opportunity to explain my immigration story and mention some challenges I faced with it. Please, next. I was born in Kabul, Afghanistan, to parents who were both highly educated. My father was a prosecutor and my mother was a teacher. In 1984, I was forced to leave my country with my family due to occupation of Afghanistan by Soviet Union and threats made against my parents by People's Democratic Party. When I was just 5 years old, the journey of my immigration to Iran began, passing through a temporary status for more than 3 decades that brought with it a life of uncertainty. Growing up as an immigrant meant facing numerous challenges and limitations in both education and work, where access to opportunity was often restricted. Despite this hardship, my parents made every effort to ensure that all their children received an education from primary school to university. However, I completed my education and began my professional career in Iran, overcoming many challenges and restrictions. In 2018, I went back to my country and settled down in Kabul. I was a human rights defender, a civil activist, especially for women in Afghanistan, and one of the founders and vice president of the Afghan Women Engineers Associations. After the collapse of government of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan and subsequent rule of Taliban, several restrictions were imposed on activities and the presence of women in society. The Taliban takeover and the fall of Afghanistan led to a wave of forced migration. My husband and I, like many others, found ourselves in immediate danger because of our religious, ethnicity, and civil activism. I'm a Tajik and my husband is a Hazara, and we are both members of Shia religious minority. In addition, women face several restrictions, including prohibition on education, employment, and participation in social activities. The oppressive environment left little hope for future forcing us to seek safety in another country where basic rights, freedom, and opportunity for education and work could be maintained. The search for security and dignified life became the main driving force behind our difficult journey of immigration. Our journey to safety was fraught with challenges. My husband and I were forced to give up our roles, jobs, residence, and other related commitment, and temporarily relocated to Iran again in July 2021. Realizing that it was no longer feasible to return to our country, and with the Iranian government refusing to renew our temporary residency, we began the process of applying to alternative institutions and universities. We were accepted for a second master's degree at the University of Padua in Italy. We moved to Italy in October 2022 and stayed there for 9 months. In addition, I was very fortunate to be accepted into the Institute of International Education's Scholar Rescue Fund, IISRF grant program. This institution supports fellowships for threatened and displaced scholars at partner institutions of higher education worldwide. With the support of the IISRF program, I was accepted as an instructor at South Dakota State University, obtained J visa, and entered the United States in July 2023. Next slide, please. In my home country, my professional experience spanned academia, architecture, and leadership. As an assistant professor at 2 universities, I had the opportunity to educate and mentor future architects and urban designers. As an architect and design manager, my responsibility included overseeing projects from concept to design and implementation of buildings. I have worked with several architectural and urban design firms on a variety of projects, including residential, government, commercial, hospitality, urban design, and landscape. I held a professional engineering license in design supervision and implementation for 13 years. This certification allowed me to design and supervise various residential projects in Afghanistan and Iran. In addition, as a founder member of the Afghan Women Engineers Association, I worked to empower and advocate for women in engineering and to promote professional growth and inclusion in the field. I'm currently an international professor of architecture at the School of Design at South Dakota State University, where I teach graduate and undergraduate students in the architecture and interior design programs. My teaching and research focus on culture and societal influences on environmental sustainability. As a professor and researcher, I hold a J1 visa, which is a non-immigrant visa designed for participation in exchange visitor programs. Holding this type of visa comes with significant legal status challenges and strict limitations. The first of which is the 2-year home residency requirement under Section 212E, which mandates a return to the home country before applying for certain U.S. visas or permanent residency. Second, this visa, previous one. Previous slide. Yeah. Second, this visa prohibits changing status to another legal category within the US, which limits my long-term career planning. In my situation, not only can I not return to my country because of the situation in Afghanistan and the danger I am in, but I cannot change my status. Third, while full-time engagement in academic activities is permitted, professional practice in private firms is strictly prohibited. So I have no opportunity for broader professional engagement outside of the academia and to enhance my professional practice experience. These restrictions create uncertainty and barriers to long-term stability and career development. I'm faced with the issue of continued legal status and temporary residence status, forcing me to apply for asylum status, leave legal status, and face additional challenges. The current situation has created confusion, stress, and sense of hopelessness about my future in the United States. Next. The academic experience an international professor presents various challenges, particularly in the adapting to new teaching methods, classroom dynamics, and academic expectations. There are differences in culture, behavior, and student-professor interaction between the US and my country that require adjustment to effectively engage students and foster a productive learning environment. Access to resources, materials, and presentations tools are completely different from my previous experience in requiring adaptability in teaching methods and the time to learn. Seeking the speaking and presenting in English adds another layer of difficulty for me, especially when we have difficulty understanding each other due to different accents. Additionally, being a minority based on gender, religious, and culture in an academic setting can lead to discomfort in communication and engagement, making it more difficult to build a strong connection with students, faculty, and community. My husband and I are the only Afghans living in Brookings. I need more effort, adaptations, and trust building to create inclusive and effective academic experience to overcome these barriers. Next slide. The professional practice of architecture presents many challenges. The main challenges are navigating different units of measurement, understanding different building structure, and adapting to different materials and construction methods. In the United States, architectural practice follows the imperial system, while many other countries, including Afghanistan, use the metric systems. Building structures vary greatly due to climate, available materials, and seismic consideration. In the US, most common materials and structure are wood and timber, while my country relies heavily on steel, reinforced concrete, traditional mud brick, and stone. I also must keep up with the evolving codes, regulations, standards, strict zoning law, energy and environmental impact assessment in the US. A significant challenge arises when my prior experience does not align with the new job requirements in the firm. For licensure in the United States, the National Council of Architectural Registration Board, NCAR, process adds another layer of complexity. I need to complete an educational assessment, the Architectural Experience Program, for 3,740 hours in specific firms, pass the architect registration examination, and apply for licensure. Unfortunately, this process will take a long time, and I cannot apply now due to my legal status and work permit. Thank you again for your attention to my immigration story and some of the challenges me and other women face with it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kaire and Sudava. These are also compelling stories. And then next, we move to Mexico, south of the continent. Mexico has also become a place of receiving migrants. And we have Ana Marcela Perez Sanchez. She has a master's degree in management and social development from the University of Guadalajara and the bachelor degree in psychology from the Pontificia Javeriana University in Bogotá. Ana Marcela has volunteered in spaces dedicated to popular education and work with social vulnerable populations. In her professional practice, she has focused on the educational and social sectors. She is a feminist activist with the Caminantas Collective in Mexico. And also, she is taking her PhD studies now, being a case of further education instead of direct market, similar to those of Sudaba and Tiger. So please, Marcel, the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm glad to be here and talk about my experience. And I feel that this experience that other girls that have to migrate. So I am glad to share that. And I want to begin with my experience in Colombia. I was work at education projects in Colombia and a different kind of develop social skills for people. And at this moment, when I was in Colombia, I wanted to upgrade my studies, and I have a problem with my my to this because in Colombia the tuition for postgraduate studies is very expensive. So I decided to leave Colombia due to the high cost of tuition for postgraduate studies. And I saw an excellent opportunity to pursue master's students in Mexico. So in 2018, I received a scholarship to study for a master's degree at the University of Guadalajara, and I came to Mexico and I developed my project on refugees and masculinities. That was a new topic for me, and I learned too much because for this topic, and I decided to stay in Mexico. So the the challenges begin in this moment because I was finding a job opportunity, and when I finished my studies in 2020, and the pandemic was in full effect, and I could not return to my country. Then began a job search project. I wasn't easy. It wasn't easy because you can get a work permit as an international student in Mexico. So you must to find an employer with permission to hire migrants who can sponsor your application. This process was very, very difficult to me. It was complicated. Many organizations interviewed me, but once they realized the paperwork they had completed, they disqualified me from the job opportunity. So I had to work like an irregular immigrant. I work at the same time in 5 jobs and I earned a total of 5,000 Mexican pesos, and that is equally 244. Then in 2021, I didn't have a job, so as I had to go to Tapachula, that I had an opportunity to work with an organization that supports refugees at the south of Mexico. In this organization, they told me that they uh, want to give me an opportunity and to read the permission, but they have a lot of problems with the permission. So after a year of working of two organizations, at least it hadn't obtained work permit. So and in this moment, I have a lot of problems with this situation, and I have emotional problems because my mother's died in this year. So I want to come back to Guadalajara, and I decide to return to here in Guadalajara because I had a job opportunity and a social work at a Catholic school, and I had my boyfriend. I have my boyfriend here, so I need emotional support and a new opportunity. So I came back here, and I took me 2 months to obtain my work permit, and then I began to work at the school. The most challenges part of the job process in education was understanding each other interculturally, because we have the same languages but different customs. So it was very difficult to me because I coordinate an area, and at that time it was hard to explain how to carry out the process and learn which words to use, not and what words used now, because Spanish is a very difficult language, because we have a lot of things and idiomatic customs that change from Colombia to Mexico. So some words that I told here, it was it was wrong to people here. So the other thing that I think that was a bit difficult was the salary. The salary was not enough to cover my expense and save. So at the same time that I work at the school, I was working at the NGO that we create with another girl from Colombia. In this we create Caminantas, is the name of the NGO. It's Caminantas Red, because we realized the importance of having information about the migration process clearly and from someone who has experienced it. So we create Caminantas, and we do a lot of projects to integrate people in Guadalajara, and that to help each other to have a better integration here. Then I was work a lot at the Caminantas and the school, and I feel that this moment that I didn't have enough time to be here happy, and I don't have enough money to save and go to Colombia to visit my family. So I decided to search a new opportunity, and I didn't have many job options because they didn't match my qualification, or the organization didn't understand they needed to go through additional process to hire me. As a result, I decided to enroll in a doctoral program and receive a scholarship from the government of Mexico. And I'm now doing my PhD and trying to to help and other girls to integrate better in this city and in this country. The huge challenges that I had as navigate the process of obtaining the work permit. This is very difficult. I understand a lot at the other girls that have this problem, and the embracing intercultural dynamics, because the language is the same, but the cultural is different. Providing employers with comprehensive insight into the hiring process for migrants is essential, because in Caminantas we try to do to give the employers the information to the process of to do the work permission. So I think that is very important to the other girls, no? And advocacy for fair and competitive salaries. I think that is very difficult. And empower migrants, women with clear and accessible information about their rights and the diverse avenues available for employment work permit. That is very important in this moment with this situation, that this context of immigration here. So this is my experience, and that I want to share with a lot of people that listen here.
Thank you so much, Marcela. And so we've tried to cover a lot of different experiences. One of them is that immigrants and refugees, especially women, are trying to support other immigrants, such as the case of Marcela. And then another topic I think came out very nicely in these three experiences is how forced migration and voluntary migrations are continuous process rather than completely separate ways to move from one country to another. So let's get ready for further comments and questions and in the end. But before that, we have our last speaker, who is we could say she works abroad, but she will talk about talent beyond boundaries. She has a great experience in the field of immigration and labor dignity. She has 15 years of experience managing development programs for NGOs, government, and social enterprises. Currently, she is the Global Partnership Manager at Talent Beyond Boundaries. She co-founded Olaco, a social enterprise supporting migrant and refugee integration with tech education. Previously, she worked in the Mexican Foreign Service and holds a Chevening-founded MA in Migration Studies for the University of Sussex. So, Aida, we're very excited to hear.
Thank you very much, Camelia, and thank you everyone for being here. My name is Aida Chavez, and I am, as Camelia mentioned, I am the Global Partnerships Manager at Talent Beyond Boundaries. Essentially, I'm gonna tell you like what is Talent Beyond Boundaries. We are a nonprofit organization that it's originally was founded in Australia and the US simultaneously in 2007, particularly responding to the situation lived in the Middle East, particularly with Syrians arriving into Lebanon. And that's where we started in 2017. And essentially, the question was like, what are we doing with groups of refugees who are arriving to a first country of asylum where they're not finding rights, and also they're not finding what we call in the refugee lingo what is a durable solution. So then TBB was born from this idea, from this question, and we essentially created TBB, or Talent Beyond Boundaries, where we started organizing skills of the refugees community, particularly in Lebanon. And then based on that, we started talking, thank you very much. We started talking to governments. I'm going to explain later on how do we operate generally, but first of all, I want you to meet Michele. So Michele is it's a nurse, it's a certificate nurse. She's from Venezuela. She has 5 or more years of experience in nursing, and she was working in Peru as a nurse, but also, again, like she was displaced from her home country in Venezuela and fled to Peru as the first country of asylum. It's important to note that in Peru, there are not really like a durable, or what we consider to be a durable solution, which is that there's no pathway towards citizenship there. Therefore, many Venezuelans have to, renew their permits if there is any permit, and there is a very few recognition of work credentials as well to find like for labor integration. In her case, she was lucky, Michele, in a way, because she was working as a nurse, and she had a job there. However, there was no durable solution, and she was in Peru, so she had no access to rights and no durable solution, as I mentioned. The next one, please. And then now on the other side, meet Schlegel Villages. So Schlegel Villages, it's like a conglomerate of like Canadian owned and operated long-term care facilities, quality long-term facilities across Ontario particularly. There is a big demand in the sector of nurse aides and personal support workers, and Schlegel Village particularly approached TBB, or TBB approached them in order to understand their labor needs. And this is what actually enabled us to connect Michele on the one side in Peru, but also with Schlegel Village in the other side. So then we used a pathway that we typically use for Canada as TBB, which is the Economic Mobility Pathways Pilot. And Schlegel was able to hire Michele at one of their long-term care facilities in Ontario. Michele is now, and you can see, like, is now in Canada, in Ontario, working in a long-term facility with them. And the reports, and then, like, let's say, like the report impact from her experience, it has been really fascinating, both from Schlegel Village on the one side, but also from Michele's experience. Next one, please. We do have partners across the globe. As I was telling you, TBB operates in 3 ways. On the one side, we operate on what we call like source countries, and there's like all the countries, and I'm gonna show a slide later. On the other side, we work with destination countries, and in destination countries, we work with governments and we work with potential employers or employers. This is the list of like employers that we have engaged and they have hired, let's say, talent through TBB, using in different pathways and government pathways that sometimes have been co-designed hand-to-hand with TBB, like the case of Australia. In Canada, we have had also like some sort of conversations, conversations with the Canadian government in order to be able to use EMPP and make it work for all of our TBB candidates. However, this is like, as you can see, these are like the employers that we partner, along others that are not listed here. Next one, please. So these are also like 4 stories of women that we have worked with them, and there have been successful cases of relocation. Again, we work in various destination countries like Australia, and you're going to see as well, like Marufa, who's working at the moment at KPMG, one of the big consultancy firms, and she's from Afghanistan originally, and she's at KPMG in Australia at the moment. We also have worked with Diala, a nurse that is working as in a healthcare facility in Toronto, as well as Sadia, for instance, that also works at the moment in Australia as a software engineer. And recently, we also worked with the case, and I was working closely with this case with Lohana, who left, she's Venezuelan origin, who lived in Colombia and left Colombia and now works as a quality leader at Arnott's Group. It's one of the big, let's say, companies producing food, and particularly cookies and crisps and all kinds of food. Next one, please. So again, like Michelle, like other women that you have seen, like there are what we think and what we understand is that we do have like a big target market in terms of like we are working with clients. And there's nearly 110 million of people like Michelle that do have skills because TBB has and works under the premise that refugees have skills and that these skills can actually provide them to secure a durable solution via international labor mobility. This is what we do. TBB does international labor mobility. And we believe that this is, and we operate also in the same space as resettlement, but being very different from resettlement. What we do is that we secure job offers for refugees, so they can migrate on the one hand with job offers, but also with all the permits, visas, or permit or residency permits that are needed in order for their integration. After the relocation, we continue with their integration, monitoring their integration through partner organizations in destination countries. So we also understood that at the same time on our destination countries where we are living at, like we understand that at least 75% of this company say that they're struggling to find talent, you know, and this also because this is what we keep on hearing from the employers. They keep on tapping into the same circles of people, but not really understanding that maybe or not really exploring like new options and tapping into, you know, pools of talent that they haven't tapped on. So this is what we do as TBB. We put together a pool of talent that is outside that particular country, and we bridge the job opportunities with displaced talent, with refugees, or displaced talent in general, who are in need of a durable solution. So we do that. We have also access to jobs and their skills, access to jobs through their skills. Sorry. Next slide, please. Again, we connect refugees with employers, and this is where Talent Beyond Boundaries stands in the middle. Like we are the bridge between the refugees and the employers on an international level. How do we operate? Like technically, and this is the operational day-to-day, let's say, in TBB. We have a very important tool that one of our co-founders, actually, he's a software developer and developed this tool that is called the Fascinating. And I'll say it's fascinating because it contains a lot of information. So we have something that is called the talent catalog, and it's a core tool of TBB and the core tool that connects source countries, connects candidates with employers as well. So what is a talent catalog? To summarize and to make it like easy, it's like a LinkedIn, but it's the LinkedIn that it's designed for refugees and displaced populations, particularly. Up to today, TBB, through the talent catalog, we have a little bit more than 130,000 people registered in across the globe, and it's open to everyone. And it's open for people to register to register. And obviously, we believe also in the criteria that refugees own their own information, and they also can update significantly their profiles as they keep on acquiring more credentials, or they even can have the decision to delete their own profiles just under because of the criteria that we believe that refugees own their own data and their own information. So the talent catalog has like different, interesting data. We do have like different professions there registered, different occupations. So then the talent catalog also help us out source talent based on the job descriptions that we get from our destination countries, who they already talk to employers in destination countries. And at the moment, we have helped 275 companies to make job offers globally. And we do have also the successful case of the family of Reinaldo, who's also a Venezuelan refugee who was in Peru as a baker, but he has a background also as an agriculture engineer. And now he's working in a big, let's say, bakery in Canada, in Ontario, Canada. And that's the picture of his family. Next one, please. So our country programs, as I was telling you, we work with Australia, and in Australia, it's a very interesting pathway because we, as TBB, co-designed, or had the fortune to co-design like this labor mobility program with Australia and the government of Australia and TBB. So we work with Australia. We also work in Belgium at the moment, Canada, as I mentioned, through the EMPP particularly, but also other regional programs that we use as a pathway, let's say. Ireland, we are also opening recently in Ireland and Portugal. The UK, we have been operating also programs with the UK, particularly for nursing, and especially as after Brexit, the UK, the NHS particularly, has raised their hand saying we need cohorts of nurses, and we have worked with them, sourcing and basically putting forward candidates, excellent candidates that have been hired by the NHS and they're still there. So relocation has been also very successful in the UK. We need to also address the fact that the US program has been cancelled due to the ongoing regulations and the ongoing current administration. We were working previously with the US with Welcome Core at Work, and this has been unfortunately cancelled. So that's why I put it like banished. And our intention is to expand in Spain, in Germany, and in Italy. We have a very interesting model that is a train to hire model, meaning that we train cohorts of people based on companies' needs, but we train in not country of origin, but country of first asylum. We have done 3 programs in Uganda for IT workers, a second program in Jordan with goldsmiths, and then a third program in Egypt with people who are building boats. And they are all going to Italy, but they have received a prior training in this country. Next one, please. Okay, so we have just here a big breakdown, and because this forum is dedicated for North America, Latin America as well, with its natural connection, I just want to highlight some numbers that we have here in Latin America. So we have over 8,000 people registered in Latin America and the Caribbean. The majority of the people at the moment who have registered in Latin America in our talent catalog are based in Peru, but as a second country, you'll find Colombia. There's more than 7,000 Venezuelan people registered, and a little bit more than 300 Colombian people registered in Latin America. The other interesting section is that it's almost half and half. We don't see this elsewhere in the world. I'm saying almost half women, half men. It's a very important participation of women that we don't see elsewhere in the world. So that's important to highlight, particularly for the topics of this forum. Next one, please. Our impact has been that we have impacted more than 1,600 people, total supported with TVB programs, and that includes families as well, families, children, etc. We have also 93% of retention rate, which is also very interesting because typically employers are very happy with the hires in a 93%. And 95% of the candidates feel welcome in their new community. So we're working towards integration once they arrive into the destination country. Next one, please. And then we do have the hiring process as well. How do I identify the role? As I was telling you, we go also to a process of recruitment. This is where we try to match skills from our refugee pool of talent through the talent catalog. And then we match their skills with a potential job offer that our teams uploads there and passes to us. And once the person's a match, and then the person goes into a typical, hiring process of going into an interview, and hopefully this interview lands into a job offer. And then once the job offer is done and signed and agreed and accepted by the candidate, then the visa application stage starts. And then TBB, along with partner organizations and also multilateral organizations like UNHCR or IOM, we prepare their relocation in order for them to, potentially go to the destination country that the job was offered. Then we support and do follow-up in the integration. Benefits of hiring, obviously, because we support on the one side employers, so it's a win-win for everyone, and on the other side we can find strong talent within the refugee community. We're supporting refugees, but it's also part of a global movement, and also we're bringing, let's say, new ideas and new talent to employers. So it's a win-win in many ways, and also we support talent retention at the company. Next one, please. And obviously, access to untapped sources, as I was telling you, this is what we can bring. And also candidates tend to be very resilient and determined. I'm saying and especially with strong loyalty and therefore very high retention in the companies that they're hired. And this is also on the other side, supporting families, not only the candidates who secure the jobs, but also the immediate families. And it also achieves diversity goals for companies, especially for those who have some targets on corporate social responsibility. We support these companies as well to increase these numbers, but also to increase the diversity in the companies, and builds like also wider staff morale and then positive association with the company. Next one, please. So again, like we believe that together in collaboration, and this is why partnerships are also important, in collaboration with many stakeholders, we can like also create a better future through labor mobility for refugees. Next one, please. And thank you very much. Open to any questions later.
Thank you so much, Aida. Well, I must confess, of course, I met Aida maybe in the pandemic. I think it was 4 years ago, and I was very impressed with this kind of work. It's an example of civil society responsibility to protect refugees and migrants, and especially refugees they work with, and how talent refugee organization can help in this process. And of course, there is always this idea that some work is better than no work, but I think they are doing a great job in, finding the right kind of work that the refugees are willing and meant to do abroad. So I will open the floor for questions and answers. Any way you want to do it, you can open your microphone, or you can just paste your comments in the chat. So yes, please, Fiona.
So for Aida, it's in your experience when you're trying to match professionals with employers, do you face similar barriers as individuals in having professional qualifications recognized?
Thank you, Fiona. That's a great example. That's a great question, actually. Let's say nursing would be a very particular one. Like to be a nurse, for instance, in Canada, there needs to be a special certification in Canada. So those people are coming outside Canada. So essentially, the option that we use and that they use, and we also have a very informed decision session along with the candidates, is saying, I understand that you have a certification in nursing. However, the option and the possibility at the moment is as a personal support worker or as a nurse aide, which is not requiring you a particular certification that you might need in order to practice nursing. So if they agree, they will travel under these conditions, and then eventually there might be a possibility to take some additional certifications, classes for the certification, take the exam, and then pass the nursing exam. So typically we're seeing like journeys of like, let's say within 5 years, we see this switch from personal support workers, nurse aide, going into nursing, because obviously it's different in Latin America. You can see it in Latin American nurses cannot prescribe, whereas in Canada, the US nurses prescribe. So that requires additional certifications.
Okay.
But we are also doing that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Aiden. Any other comments? I see that Barbara posted a comment that I share. I'm humbled by the stories that we shared today. Of course, it's very compelling, this kind of experience. It makes you rethink and all the experience, life experience, right? Because refugees are so resilient in their life plans. They can start over. So I think that is something that they give back to societies where they arrive. Because when we see this kind of experience, we think that our problems are nothing also compared to, reinventing yourself maybe at 30 or 40, maybe even older. So, Would maybe some of the speakers would like to comment, make cross comments between their experiences, what they thought of the Colombian experience versus Afghanistan?
For the most part, people are simply saying how amazing the resilience of just looking at Joyce, the resilience of these women in making these changes and the courage that they exhibit. I think that, like I said, I'm humbled by it. I'm not so sure. Well, mind you, I'm past the time of worrying about it, but to make those sort of changes, to move to another country, to restart is incredible. It requires a great deal of perseverance and strength. These are strong women that we met today. Okay, are there any other comments?
Just
Or
interesting. It's just interesting to note that the experience, like, you know, in Marcela's experience, that even though you speak the same language, there are still cultural differences, and the way people practice their professions and do things. So it's not only a language barrier that is tough for people, but there's always a cultural thing between countries. You know, not all countries that speak the same language operate the same way or have the same understandings of things. So it's interesting just to sort of note how much culture can play a part in trying to adapt. So
Audrey Hobbs has a comment. Please go ahead.
Now, I was just going to say it's really important the important piece for me that came out was the importance of partnerships. We seem to have so many pathways, and we're not all of us are not aware of all the pathways. And back to what Barb's saying, if I were going to a new country, I would want to know what those pathways are. So I think CFUW and CAMIUS has something to write something or do something to talk about the intersection of all the pathways we heard today. Each one of them is really powerful. Together, they can be even more powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Audrey. Grace?
Thank you. I'm wondering if our speaker from Talent Beyond Boundaries would have some advice for the other speakers who have had such a challenge and still have a challenge to be able to work in the area for which they were originally trained.
Definitely. First and most importantly, like we can always, I mean, if you can register, let's say, in the talent catalog, that's one option that people can do. But also, like, the other thing that I did not mention, the Talent Beyond Boundaries offer is that once that people register into the talent catalog, they have free access to capacity building training courses, like, let's say, free access to Coursera to improve their language skills for sure. Language, it's proven that it's one of the main tools to secure a job offer. So especially in destination countries where English destination countries, or Canada as a francophone country as well. We do provide this kind of capacity building, and it's completely free and available once they're registered into the talent catalog. So keep on certifying, keep on getting all of these skills, and try to update as well all of your profiles, all of your CVs, letting the employers know as well that you have, or that they have been, participating into this programs. There's language, there's how to prepare as well yourself for a job interview, how to nail a job interview. There's many people that it's going to be their first time to confront a job interview ever. So we also have those resources for people to prepare, and we encourage them to do that. And again, language would be first, I think, of one of our first, advices for sure. And just pass along as well all the information. Like you can access the TC, the talentbeyondboundaries.org webpage, and over there you'll find so many options. But initially, it's the main thing to do is to register into a talent catalog.
Thanks, Aida. We have great feedback in the chat. And there is one question from Linda. Maybe I will address it to Dina, because she's most familiar with this case. She says, in Canada, there is very different for each province, I would think. Do you want to comment on that, Dina?
Sure, and definitely true, because I mean, I'll speak to education. To be a teacher, right? They have to get certified in wherever they're moving. But with labor mobility, you're seeing that in a lot of the trades and occupations, that as long as they come into one, most of them now will have to recognize them across. But it can be very confusing, that pre-information of it's fine after the fact, but arriving. This Pathways to Teach initiative that's just come on just before in 2024 is taking care of some of that, bringing some of these things together. I'm imagining as we're talking, wouldn't it be interesting to have a link to Talent Beyond Boundaries and having this all housed in one sort of place, right? Where an applicant thinking about becoming a teacher could find those linkages, and if there was something there to build all those pieces together. So I'm thinking about the recruitment person at the school board, and already just the connections of what we're talking about is starting to build those things. But definitely across Canada, you will see the language test. So every province had a different language test. Quebec would have one in French, and the rest mostly in English, but could be in French as well, depending. But now those will all be done through this one place where the credential assessment and language piece will be. So I think you're seeing some of that sort of consistency where one organization is becoming helpful in addressing some of those barriers, but no doubt that does create a challenge in some cases too.
I see. We took the case of Canada. It's not an accident that we have free speakers from Canada. It's an extreme or different case in a certain way, because Canada has a different welcoming experience, and maybe people don't feel as discriminated as they would be in other countries. They feel generally welcome, even when they come from a very different background. So what we see in Canada is also great collaboration between private and the civil society, organized civil society, and not, people who try to help immigrants, not being associated with an NGO. So this is also why we chose Canada for solutions, what can be done. And of course, a lot more can be done, but we are also trying to offer good cases, right? And there was a comment in the chat by Maria Perez. She was saying, as an immigrant, I believe that these spaces are very important because they show that it is a very hard reality for some of us, and that it takes a lot of courage to make the decision of leaving your country and start again. Thank you very much.
And she also added, and I want to ask if in Mexico, there were some difficulties for people from countries like Colombia that has a lot of history of drug trafficking, and if that does make discrimination or create discrimination issues. I don't think we have the answer to that.
In fact, we have this this problem in whole world, I think so. But I think that I have a lot of problems with the sexualization of the women, Colombian women, because when I talk, and I talk with my accent, I have a lot of boys that I think that I want I want sex or something like this. That is the problem. And I think that other girls that I meet have a lot of problems with finding work because the jefe, I forget this word.
The boss, yeah.
The boss give the opportunity, but he wants something for the favor or something like this. I think that I have a lot of problems with this, and a lot of people told me something like Pablo Escobar or something like this, but I feel like I'm not related with him, but a lot of people think that this is the problem here, no? And I think another situation that I have is with a lot of other, no, I want to talk about this, but it's this another topic.
Well, you can introduce it briefly if you like.
There's one more question. Brenda has her hand up.
Thank you, Barb. I was just going to mention about the need for financial assistance and to identify that the Graduate Women International has two sources for funding. One is the Heg Hoffitt Fund, which provides the funding for displaced women and girls because of a crisis, and they've had to go to another country. It may be to take English classes. It may be to get recertification. So it's up to about 3,000 Swiss francs, and applications will be opening again in mid-April. And if you are into a PhD situation, you can apply for a fellowship through the fellowship that grants that GWI has. So financial assistance seems to be a big factor as immigrant women are coming into a country in order to receive at least a step up with their in reaching their goals. So I'm thinking of Sudaba, what you were talking about, reaching your goal, and all of the other speakers who were referring to what their goals were. And this may be an avenue to get some extra financial assistance.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Thank you for sharing this.
Are there
Then-
any? Oh, we're cross-talking. I was just going to say, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, then I think that perhaps we should wrap it up. I want to thank all of the speakers for sharing their personal stories. They're incredibly brave women, strong women, as I said before, who have faced what many of us would find insurmountable odds and are pursuing still their goals. And I think that's really important in life, is to keep your dreams and aspirations as something that you don't lose, despite all of the hardships that you go through. So I'm incredibly thankful, and I'm sure I speak for all of us, that you women shared what you are going through. And we're very pleased that you stepped up to share that with us today. And I want to give another thank you to Camelia for moderating today, and also for suggesting this topic, because it's a very important one. I mean, for example, in Canada, we have a severe shortage of both doctors and nurses. I know that the provinces are making changes to their regulations to try and simplify the process. But obviously, it's still too expensive and too many hoops for people to go through. So I think we can hope for the best, and perhaps keep informed, all of us, and keep helping women throughout the world. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Audrey.
Oh, good to see you. It was well done. Well done.
Yes.
Very interesting stories.
Well, yes, and the whole after listen in the beginning, I thought, oh, all these speakers, but the number of speakers and how, in the end, the partnership piece came together was really important for me because
Mhm.
that's a piece I'm finding not only globally but even nationally. Trying to put partnerships together is one of the big pieces because we're all doing something. And together we could be really a lot more powerful than each of us doing something different. So, yeah.
And the problem is that many of us don't know what the other person is doing or the other organization is doing.
Exactly. Exactly. I was
Mhm.
thinking about the teaching thing that I'm still connected to.
Yes,
And
exactly.
that was a very good way to begin it. A great way to begin it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, to have it presented from the other point of view of
Yeah. Yeah.
problems
Yeah.
that you know, teachers or I suppose it's probably true for the medical profession to have in terms of certification and creating, well, knowing that there are barriers, but still they have the obligation to make sure that the person coming in is a good fit for the job that they're applying for.
Exactly. Exactly. And some of the really honest pieces that some of our presenters gave was really important to me because sometimes you're afraid to say, well, this is what I know and this is what I don't know. But how else can we help people? How else can we coordinate efforts? It's not only helping, it's just coordinate and get it together.
Yes.
Looks like we might be doing some of that in Canada soon, among other places, hopefully.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, well done. So
Yeah.
thanks for including me. Okay.
Okay, all right. Grace
Bye-bye.
has her hand up. She wants to say something too.
Okay.
I thought it was really good, Audrey, how we started with something that's working. And
Mhm.
then we ended up with other solutions ideas of how people can get this to work better. So I thought that was good rather than having, it was good to have the problems in the middle. And certainly they're very, very genuine. But then to see that maybe there's a way out for some people was good.
Yeah, I agree. And how each of us has a job we have to do. I mean, in terms of making those connections better. I mean, even here right in Canada, we have to make the connections better. I mean, pathways to education is a really good beginning. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we were just earlier or last night, we were talking about some of the work that CMAC's doing to actually increase their influence in it. And so that's really recent. So I was encouraged by that and thought about this morning. So yeah, yeah. So there we are. All right.
All right, any other post-session comments that people want to throw out? We actually ended early, but we deliberately scheduled 2 hours knowing we'd be less than that because there's always possibilities.
Right.
Yes, I want to mention.
Yes.
Yeah, just I want to mention, I talk about very challenges that I haven't had in United States, but I want to mention during this about 2 years that I stayed at United States, I have this opportunity to connect with different organizations like WG, US, and CAMS, and other organizations and people that can help me to adjust my life and my experience with this new situation. And it's very, useful for me to can adjust myself. I have several problems, but yeah, with this support, I have a smooth adjustment. It's very important for me that people help me and support me to have a better journey and adjustment. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate.
Thank you.
Ladies, I think this went really well. It was very supportive experience. I think, I'm happy that the people that were speaking felt comfortable in sharing.
Thanks for organizing everything, Barbara.
Oh, wow. Thank you for being the moderator and for going through the whole experience of trying to upload everything to Whova and all of that. That was not exactly easy process either. So thank you.
So Barb, next year you guys are gonna have to do it again. The Canadians, it's your turn.
It's our turn. I thought we did last year.
No, we did last year.
You did last year? Okay. Well, whatever. Well, okay. I seem to have lost a year in between there. Okay. We will work on that.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can get Camelia to do it again. She can just sort of switch to see
Yeah,
a little
do
while.
that, yeah. Right. Yes, we need to have other people join us. Elise is part of CFUW as well. It's actually interesting to have different perspectives. And I believe some of our Canadian members, like Phyllis Scott, I know is a member of WG. So I think it's kind of fun being a member of another organization too. Yes.
Hallie is with us at WG. She has been for years. So.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yes. I forgot about that. Yes. And she was one of your speakers.
Yeah.
Yes. And Grace and I had a great time going to your AGM last year.
Indeed, we did.
We were happy to have you.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
ladies, thank you for everything.
Okay.
You're
And thank you, Deanna, for your contribution. It was a very clear presentation.
Thank you.
So to everyone, thank you. And I think we can perhaps close this session on a very successful note.
Good.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Amazingly, my voice kind of held in there, even though I'm croaking.
Thank you.
Bye and have a great day.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, I think it's just the three. Oh, no, we got more than that still. Who else do we have on here today? Still. Okay. Well, thank you, Grace, for being back up.
You're welcome. I think that we'll have to at our next meeting look at if there are some ideas from today that we can work on over the next year.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
rather than have this as an isolated event,
No, yeah, that's a good point. I think we could thought about some other ones too, but yeah, because we don't want to be starting late in the year doing everything again.
No, and we can contact some of our speakers who may also have ideas on some work we can do in the migrant area.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, I'll let you go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to be off too. I think I have to go see what my granddaughter, she's been very good about staying out of here. And I'm sure she's probably quite fed up of being watching cartoons. Okay, bye-bye.